Hey, my fourth grade friends, it's Mrs. Real here with another installment of Jed and the Junkyard War. When we last left Jed, he was realizing this is a place he knows nothing about, the junkyard is, and the people in the junkyard have no understanding of his world. They think it's kind of a fairy tale setup or situation. He doesn't know what metal he's supposed to be. He doesn't understand how that's all working. He's getting a little bit of it. And we got to see, to share the screen with you so you can see what I'm showing you. Jed had jokingly said he was gold. That's what the metal he chose. And then they were telling him the story of what happened to the people who used to be gold. There was some kind of disease that would come and eat off parts of their body, their limbs, their toes, their arms. They were replacing themselves with metallic parts until there was nothing left but the metal part. And so on the front of the ship was this head that was talking. It used to be a gold person, but as they were done, he whispered, "Welcome back and happy birthday" to Jed. So after that was scary for him, Pavel said, "Hey, you need to feel better. Let's go have some strawberries." So chapter 9. Pavel tugged Jed toward a cabin at the front of the ship. "To the helm." He led the way up a back staircase to the bridge. The small cabin door barely fit Pavel's bulk. The room was open, empty, and well lit by huge windows on each wall, which gave a full view of the junkyard. "This is the helm," Pavel said. "Controls are a bit different, since Bessie was a dread tug before we stole her. Snatched her right out of a dread shipyard from under their dread noses." Thick bolts anchored a throne in the center of the room. Levers, each at least the height of Jed's waist, shot up from slots in the floor. Some were forward, some back, but each joined to a base. 5 pedals, made of pie tins, sat in a half circle around the huge chair. Hoses and pipes snaked from the pedals through the levers and gears and around the back. Jed's eyes lingered on the pipe tins. Every Saturday, Mom made something lemon for dessert. Lemon meringue pie, lemon bars, lemon ginger cheesecake, lemon coconut cupcakes, lemon pound cake. They'd sit together and thumb through their lemon anthology, a collection created over the years of the finest lemon desserts. "Which one for today?" She'd always let Jed pick. As a result, they'd had lemon poppy seed donuts every Saturday for 2 months. Lemon poppy seed donuts were exactly what he wanted right then. Hot icing soaked to the donut's core, so soft it would melt between his teeth. "It's Saturday," he whispered to himself, his tongue tingling. "It's what?" Pavel asked. Jed snapped back to the present. "Oh, nothing." His fingers were in his pocket, wrapped around the lemon he brought. "Pretty neat, huh?" Pavel rested his fist on his hips and surveyed the room. "I've never seen anything like it. But where's the wheel?" "Wheel?" Pavel looked around. Jed shook his head. "Never mind." It was then that he noticed a red button atop one of the levers. His heart jumped. "It is imperative that you push every red button you find." Pavel turned to the side and looked out over the junkyard. "He's not looking. Do it. Now." Jed reached for the lever, but before his fingers could touch the button, it turned green. He froze, arms still outstretched. "Get away from the controls!" a voice shouted. Kaiser stood in the doorway, hands clutching the door's frame so tightly his arms shook. "Oh, you were what?" Kaiser released the frame and stepped into the room. "Saw you reach for the altitude stick. What were you going to do?" "I don't know. Kaiser turned to Pavel. "Why did you let that thing in here?" "Just giving a tour of the—" "Out!" He jabbed his finger at the open door. Pavel waddled away. Jed tried to follow, but Kaiser grabbed his shoulder. "Not you." Kaiser bent closer until his breath tickled Jed's cheeks. "I know what you are." His words were slow and doused in venom. "What I am?" Jed stepped back, but Kaiser closed the gap. "Let's chat about what you said earlier in the captain's quarters about living junk. You seem to know an awful lot about it." "I was just trying to explain," Kaiser grabbed a wad of skin on Jed's arm. This doesn't fool me. Ouch, Jed yelped. Kaiser pulled the skin to his nose and inhaled. His lower lip jutted out as if he'd just breathed vinegar fumes. Pretty skin like that. Not a wrinkle, not a scar. Smells like soap. Thanks. I shower when I can. His answers lifted at the ends as if they were questions. Kaiser released the skin. Under all that sky water, beyond the fringe, a glitter tail place that doesn't exist? What are you accusing me of? Kaiser pinched some hairs from Jed's head and yanked. Ow, get off me! He shoved Kaiser and backed against one of the windows, rubbing the now tender patch of the scalp. Kaiser studied the hairs, then sprinkled them over the floor. Don't lie to me. You didn't even feel that. Manipulative parasites like you don't feel anything. Manipulative what? We both know you're not from the fringe. You're just a little monster from the fog, snuck on board to devour us all. The fog? Are you serious? How could you even... Where's your beacon? My what? Show me, Kaiser said. He drew a shatterbox. The weapon wasn't elaborate like one of Sprocket's, but Jed guessed it still fired just fine. I saw you tampering with the altitude controls. Jed held up his hands, shook his head. I was just looking around. You're not a very clever Dread, are you? Dread? Jed glanced out the window behind him. It's not too high to jump, not high enough to break my legs, at least. Kaiser nodded. Dread. How could you possibly think I'm one of those things? Kaiser pulled the hammer on his shatterbox. It clicked. He curled a finger around the trigger. You're just wearing somebody else's skin, hiding underneath pretty, soaped clean pink. I swear I'm not a Dread. This is my real skin. I was watching you earlier. I saw the way you looked at that stack ornament. Jed's brain crackled, tingly with guilt over what the Dread had said to him. Jed's voice trembled. Look at it how? I know what I saw. You two are planning something, aren't you? Mutiny arrangements? Makeup tips on looking human? Do you even feel real emotions? No, you don't. And you're not going to feel anything when I squeeze this trigger because you're not a real person. You're scrap. So stop acting scared. Would you just listen to me? I'm not going to let you slurp up this crew and turn us into twisted, clicking beetles. Time for you to go. His finger flexed against the trigger. Jed tensed, ready to jump through the window. The bridge door flung open and Captain Boggs stomped into the room. What's going on? He shouted. Kaiser flinched. He what? If you're going to make a mess on my bridge, and if I have to get Pobble up here to scrub pieces of that boy out of the gears, there'd better be a good reason. Captain, this boy's a Dread. I saw him acting suspicious around the head. I think they're working together to kill us and take the ship. What? Captain Boggs asked. I saw him reaching for the altitude controls. He's going to crash the ship, then kill us and take our skins, and... Jed held his hands higher. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm not a Dread. I'm not trying to kill anyone. Keep your mouth shut until I tell you to open it, Captain Boggs said. He rubbed his eyes with his thumb and index finger. Kaiser, is this Henry all over again? I'm telling you, he's full of gears and scrap. That pretty sheet of skin is a disguise. He's a Dread, Captain. I know it. Gears? Jed said. I don't have any gears. He lifted an arm and poked it to show how squishy it was. That's what you said about Henry. Captain Boggs' voice was careful and steady. Kaiser shook his head twitchily as if a fly had landed on his nose. I'm not crazy. That scrawny runt who can't climb a ladder? You think he's a Dread? All his parts are matching. I don't see any extra clunk on him. Do you? Kaiser considered Jed. He's hiding it. Captain Boggs shook his head. All the parts match. All in the right spots. You ever seen a Dread like that? Kaiser shook his head with a strained motion. Me neither. Besides, he'll be off in a few hours. Won't be our problem. They don't leave. Kaiser lowered his shatterbox. They never leave. He'll find a reason to stay and kill us all. All right, Captain Boggs patted Kaiser's shoulder. Glad we had this chat. He pointed at Jed. You, out. Jed strode past Kaiser. You keep riling up my crew, the captain added, and I'll lock you in a closet. Pobble waited for Jed on the deck. He slapped him on the back with a meaty hand. Sorry about Kaiser. He's been a bit, he twirled his finger around his ear, ever since he escaped the fog. Escaped? Dread raided his township a while back, scooped up all the townsfolk and left. Kaiser couldn't save no one's skin but his own. Who knows what he went through? Now he thinks every stranger is a Dread. Like Henry? Jed recalled the name. Henry was lookout before Sprocket. Kaiser said he was a Dread, always yelling at him, accusing him. What happened? Poor kid lost his leg in a junk storm. Since no gears tumbled out, Kaiser let it go. Till now, I suppose. Is he going to try to do something to me? Jed asked. Like, kill me? Nah, Cap'n will set him straight, Pavel said. Unless you really are a Dread. Jed's gut squished in on itself as he thought of the whispering voice. Yep, Jed smiled. That's me, Jed the Dread. Come on, let's... A high-pitched whistle sliced through the air. Incoming Falcon, Sprocket called from the lookout. Starboard, less than a scope and closing. The bridge door flung open. Captain Bog cupped his hands and yelled, Battle stations! Pavel grabbed Jed by the elbow. Get to the shatter kegs. Shatter kegs? What's going on? The two paused at a second whistle. Looks like more than one, Sprocket called. What's happening? Jed asked. Pavel pointed at the black dots in the distance. Incoming Falcons. A third whistle, and then a fourth. Each time Sprocket opened her mouth to shout, another Falcon's whistle blew until there were too many to count. Sprocket? Captain Boggs stared up at her. She studied the sky. Could be an entire wing, Captain. Maybe two. Closing fast. 3/4 of a scope away. Captain Boggs stared at the black dots. Who are they? Jed whispered to Pavel. Pavel looked at Jed as if he'd forgotten everything Jed had mentioned about living beyond the fringe. Iron. Orders, sir? Kaiser said. Cancel battle stations, Captain Boggs called. Prepare for a duck and hide. Sprocket scrambled from the stack's nest and leapt to the deck. I'll prepare 3 cloud bombs and wait for your order. Captain Boggs turned to Kaiser. Tell Riggs to punch all 4 boosters and burn hot at the first cloud. Kaiser hurried to the staircase. Why are the Irons after us? Jed asked. Irons think they own the whole yard, Pavel said. Don't give scrap about junkers like us. They'll strip a ruster ship faster than you could kick a slug from your shoe. Then they'd steal those very same shoes. And your socks, too. And anything else they say is the property of the Iron Guard. They'd take your fingernail right off your pinky if they thought it worth half a battery. And no one tries to stop them? No one except Copper. How are we supposed to stop that? He waved an arm at the dots in the sky, which were getting bigger by the second. 3 cloud bombs ready for launch, Sprocket called. I don't think a dozen would keep even half a wing from finding us. Got a better idea? Captain Boggs asked. Not really. Then let's hope these T5 boosters were worth what we paid. Kaiser, take the helm. Everyone, get ready. The Falcons drew closer. Sunlight glinted off their sleek silver hulls. There's more than 2 wings, Sprocket called. Looks like a full flock. Pavel stood on his toes and squinted at the approaching army. I ain't never seen a full flock lumped up together like that. Something's going on. Something big. The Falcons kept a tight formation. What in the cluck are they all doing? Captain Boggs mumbled. Captain, Sprocket called. He held up his hand. Hold. We've only got 1 shot. The Falcon's whistling deepened into a deck-rattling hum. Captain? Impatience tugged at Sprocket's voice. I know what I'm doing. Hold. The Falcons were close enough for Jed to see dents in their metal and letters painted on their noses. Now, Sprocket! Sprocket ignited a cloud bomb and dropped it into a metal tube. The tube made a whoomp, and the bomb launched toward the Falcons. When it reached the fleet, it exploded into smoke. A rich black stained the blue sky like oil. Fly straight into the fleet, Captain Boggs said to Kaiser. They'll be expecting us to go the other direction and will hopefully pass us straight by. Kaiser jammed the controls and punched a pulsing blue button. Something popped and hissed in the engine room. Jed could hear a faint, angry voice through the deck. Scrap piece of second-rate cheap gutter clunk! Riggs! The captain called. I've got blown batteries all over the control board, he yelled through the floor. Boosters are dead! Get us out of here, Captain Boggs yelled back. Nothing's responding. We're stuck. Silence spread over the crew as the black clouds spilled across the sky. The first falcon emerged from the smoke. Dozens followed, piercing the cloud like needles, one by one, until there were hundreds. Captain Bogg sighed. Scrap. Rocket dropped the second cloud bomb to the floor and kicked it. Scrap. Well, the captain said, enjoy your last 10 seconds of life. It's been a pleasure. He lifted his chin and closed his eyes. The first falcon reached the tug. A gust of wind sliced over them as the falcon whooshed by. The next wave of falcons reached them and flew past. Falcon after falcon, wing after wing. And then the whole flock was gone. Silver dots once again. I don't understand, Kaiser said, joining the captain on deck. They just ignored us. The captain stared at the fading pinpricks of silver. A battle, Sprocket said, joining the others. It has to be. Kaiser shook his head. There hasn't been a battle that size for decades. War's not over, Captain Bogg muttered. Not for them, at least. Jed turned to Pavel. War? Who's at war? Sprocket folded her arms across her chest. Everyone's at war, golden boy, even when they're not. What do you mean? Everyone wants something. Odds are if you want it, someone else somewhere else wants it too. Jed pointed to the falcons. What do they want? Sprocket winked. Gold. They want relics, Pavel said. All of them. Sprocket shook her head. Just a relic? Iron would have sent one squadron for that, maybe two. A whole flock? No way. This is bigger. My guess? A gilded relic. Gilded relic? Kaiser said. There hasn't been talk of a gilded relic for years. Sprocket nodded. Exactly. What's a gilded relic? Jed asked. Another glitter tail, Captain Bogg said. He kicked absently at a spot on the deck. One shiny enough to fuel a war. Chapter 10. When the last of the falcons disappeared, Captain Bogg turned to Pavel. Check on Riggs. See what's wrong with the engine and report back. Got it? Aye, Captain. Kaiser, Sprocket, follow me. Make sure every shatter keg is ready. Jed tailed Pavel to the engine room. The amber-lit corridor stretched half the length of the ship, but it was barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side. Well, even one in Pavel's case. Copper pipes walled the passageway. Loose valves leaked puffs of steam, and hidden pistons chugged in the darkness. They passed dripping oil and hissing gauges. The engine room was a silver dome. Copper pipes, some thin, some fat, squiggled like veins and arteries all along the curved ceiling and down into the engine. The engine itself stood in the center of the room. It looked alive, like an angry beast fueled by the wheezing pipes. Lights pulsed on and off, its heart, eyes, and mouth. Hey, a voice said, what are you doing down here? Pobbles, and who's that? A man at a cluttered workbench stabbed a finger at Jed. Jed, meet Riggs, Pavel said, our engineer. Riggs didn't look particularly old, but he had more wrinkles than Captain Bogg had scars. Grease seeped into his skin, smeared his coat, and stained his shirt. Riggs took off his glasses and wiped the lenses. His coat had dozens of pockets sewn on haphazardly. Riggs placed the glasses in an empty pocket, then retrieved a different pair and put them on his nose. I'm Jed. Do I look like I care? He lifted a crate of batteries onto his workbench, then began plugging them into slots on the engine. What are you doing here? Captain wanted to know what was going on with the engine, Pavel said. Oh, did he? Riggs said. Well, maybe you could remind him that if he doesn't want to crash and die in a fireball of regret, he might want to get that deflexor core sooner than later. Sure thing, Pavel said. Fireball, death, regret, flexor something core. Got it. A core he promised me met last month. I'll pass him the message. Death and regret, Riggs said again. Death and regret. I'll pass it along. Pavel turned to Jed. Good-looking engine, huh? He said cheerfully, as though he hadn't heard the bite in Riggs' voice. Oh, Riggs, you won't believe what Jed here's got. Pavel asked Jed for the can opener and handed it to Riggs. It's a can slicer. Opens them faster than slug spit. Riggs pinched it between two fingers like it was a dirty sock. How cute, he said, handing it back to Jed. Riggs is great with tools, Pavel continued. Builds all sorts of things. He pointed to the workbench. Riggs sidestepped in front of him, folding his arms across his chest, as if daring Jed to take a step closer. It looks great, Jed said. The engine, it's nice. And what? Riggs said. What does some stray know about four-valve combustion counterflow engine boosters and lead-weighted compound stabilizers? Jed didn't respond. Nothing, Riggs said, because I just said a bunch of scrap nonsense. But you didn't know that, did you? I'm sorry, Jed said, holding up his hands. I didn't mean to offend you. I was just making conversation. You know what, Stray? Riggs started. I think... His eyes paused on Jed's wrist. He removed his spectacles and took a third pair from yet another pocket and adjusted them on his nose. That watch, he said, the knife-edge tone melting into curiosity. Give me your watch. His fingers curled into a beckoning motion. Jed touched the copper band and fiddled with the clasp. The letter, it said to never take off the watch, ever. Well, the clasp is broken and I can't really get it to... He pretended to struggle with the band. Riggs smiled. It's my job to fix things. I'll have it off before you can say no. No, Jed blurted. I mean, no thanks. I'd rather not take it off. It's kind of important to me. Riggs smiled again, but darkness lurked behind the grin. Oh? Then I'll only look. One quick peek? Jed forced a shrug. The engineer walked forward until he was so close that Jed could smell the grease in his frizzy hair. Riggs rubbed the spectacles, then swapped them for yet another pair. Who carries that many pairs of glasses? This is real. Just don't touch it, Jed said, as Riggs' nose nearly pressed into the copper. The man held up his hands, then put them behind his back. He hovered near Jed like a mosquito. Hunched over Jed's wrist, he studied the timepiece. He said with a nod. I see. Interesting. Yes. What's interesting? Jed asked. Riggs stood upright. Where did you say you found this? I didn't say. Riggs said, stroking his chin. Would you stop muttering, just say something already? Well, where did you find it? Jed shifted his weight, trying to inch away from Riggs' snooping spectacles. It was a gift. From? Just a gift. Ah, Riggs nodded. Just a gift. And does the owner know that they gave you such a gift? Jed's eyes narrowed. Are you saying I stole it? I didn't say anything of the sort, but you're so defensive that it almost makes a man wonder. Jed clenched his jaw. I'm not a thief. This is mine. It doesn't belong to anyone else, and nobody is missing it. Understand? Riggs' smile widened, turning the wrinkles in his cheeks into half-moons. Oh, I bet I understand more than you. But don't worry. He stole another glance at the watch. I'll keep your secret. What are you talking about? I'm not keeping any secrets. Of course not, Riggs said. The rest of the crew doesn't need to know. Pavel stared at the pipes along the wall as if oblivious to the conversation. Riggs patted Pavel on the shoulder. Pavel here won't say a word, will you? Not if you want me to fix your fiddle. Pavel met Riggs' gaze. Not a word. There is no secret, Jed snapped. I'm not lying about anything. I didn't steal this. Riggs said. Good to know, because if someone informed the captain about what's on your scrawny wrist, things might get uncomfortable. Are you blackmailing me? Because I don't even know what you're trying to blackmail me for. Riggs shook his head. Blackmail implies that I'm exploiting you for my own gain. We haven't reached that point yet. Have we? We're just talking. Let's not make this into something that it isn't. That what isn't? Exactly, Riggs said, moving back to his workbench. I won't say anything if you don't. He picked up a hammer and began flattening a sheet of metal. Oh, and Stray? He didn't look up. I'm ready to talk when you are. But don't wait too long. Chapter 11. We're going to stop here today. Making me wonder if Riggs knows anything about that watch, because remember, it has too many hands. It doesn't tell real time like we know it, but now that he's in the junkyard, do you think Riggs really knows what he's talking about? Or is he just trying to get it away from Jed because it's a gadget and he works on gadgets. I don't know. Stay tuned. We might find out next time. See you guys later. Bye-bye.